Hello, and welcome to First versus Last, the newest show on the All My Friends Are Right Here network. I'm your host, Vince, and I'm pleased to introduce our very special guest, the one, the only, the loose cannon, Cody.
It's me, Mario!
So, if you're new to this show, which you should be because this is the first episode of the thing, unless you liked our future episodes and are coming back for our backlog, or you just listen to podcasts and reruns, what we do is we look at long-running series here, movies and video games primarily, also music and TV shows, and we look at where they started, their first, and where they've ended up, their last entry. Some of these franchises are done. Some of these franchises are still going. Today we're looking at Super Mario Kart, which came out in 1992, versus Mario Kart 8, which came out in 2014. So, long running video game series. A lot of people know it. One of Nintendo's most popular franchises, which we're going to get into, and we're going to talk a bit about the first Super Mario Kart from 1992. Then we're going to talk about what happened in between, and then we're going to talk about the last one. Does that make sense, Cody?
Sounds great to me.
All right. So let's just get right into it. Super Mario Kart came out in 1992 for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, the SNES, Super NES, SNES. You'll hear all of those acronyms throughout here. It was a two-player kart racer. You raced around as Mario in go-karts and his friends, Donkey Kong Jr., Bowser, the whole gang. Luigi was all there back in 1992. And it was a big showcase for Mode 7 graphics, which we should probably get into, which is basically just the background moves around and it looks kind of 3D, but it's not. Pilot Wings, F-Zero, those Star Wars games, if you played them, all in this era kind of looked like this. Pole position, tons of Outrun, tons of racers all borrowed this perspective at the time.
Yeah, because it's kind of just like increasing something starts off small in the background and then gets bigger and bigger perspective-wise. That was kind of the whole trick of it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird, though, because like you had to draw everything from a 2D thing because they're not like polygons that you can just or 3D models that you can just, zoom in and zoom out on. Like they had to redraw, like if you have Mario far away, then he's, 5 pixels tall. And if he's closer, then he's 10 pixels tall, then 15, then, I probably should be using multiples of 8, but, I'm sorry, nerds. Maybe I'm the only person who cares about that metaphor, being like, it's 4, then 8, then 16, then 32. And then every time Mario's turning left or right or passing you, then he's got to be at a slightly different angle. And the roots of this game actually came from F-Zero, which was a Super Nintendo launch game in 1991. And I believe it even came out and was... I want to say 1990 was when the Super Famicom came out in Japan. And that was also similarly a Mode 7 racer. They had 4 race cars from a bunch of angles. You can look at the spreadsheets and just see it's a lot to draw. And F-Zero was a cool game. I don't really like it, but it was a cool game to some. And the Nintendo team said, we want to do that, but we want to make a 2-player game. And so they made Mario. They ended up making Mario Kart out of F-Zero just by wanting to make a 2-player F-Zero style game, which is crazy because Mario Kart is one of Nintendo's biggest franchises now. I think it may have been the top seller for the Wii U was Mario Kart 8, and they just kind of fell into the franchise. And they actually created the whole kart racer genre between Diddy Kong Racing and Crash Team Racing and Pac-Man World Rally. Tons of other mascot racers existed after Mario Kart. Although Mario Kart, just for a history lesson, it's not necessarily the first game of its style. It's not the first weapons racer out there. There was RC Pro-Am for the original Nintendo and arcade, and there was stuff like Spy Hunter. So the concept of driving around and shooting guns at your opponents is not created by Mario Kart.
Do you know if Rock and Roll Racing by Blizzard was before or after this?
It's after this, because it was Super Nintendo era, but very similar. I think Rock and Roll Racing is closer to RC Pro-Am. But
yeah. I just knew there was weapons, so that's where my brain went to when we were talking about, a weaponized racer.
Yeah. So, but it's pretty cool. We'll get into actually what more details about the Mario Kart. But Cody, I want to talk to you. What's your history with Super Mario Kart? When did you ever play this game? When it was actually out?
Yeah, I did. So my family got like SNES pretty, I want to say pretty early on in its like life cycle. I'm not sure of the year, but I had an older brother who was 6 years older than me, and like if the game was two player, we had to play two player. And he loved racing games, so he would rent Mario Kart a lot. I think we owned it for a while, and I couldn't play to save my life for the longest time. I mean, to this day, I'm sure if we sat down and raced, he would beat me. But yeah, that's kind of what I always think of is like me and my brother racing and him just wiping the floor with me. And I wanted to always play the battle mode because I like stood a chance because I'm not the best at racing games.
Yeah, and Super Mario Kart is not exactly the easiest racing game. Like,
Oh, not at all. I've been replaying it on my 3DS and it is tricky.
I am just crashing from wall to wall. I don't know what it is about 2D racers. Probably I don't have as much experience. I mean, like theoretically, it shouldn't be that different than a 3D racer. Like you're just 3D racers just go kind of up and down and have some loops, and that's what makes them different. Because Mario Kart is relatively flat. F-Zero is flat. I don't know why just like moving left to right to avoid obstacles and go into turns is so freaking difficult for me in a 2D racer. I don't know if it's the timing I'm just not right on, or they have more like hairpin turns because that's what they could do, to like introduce challenge, or the
Yeah.
course, like they're just thinner, so there's more because I just bump on walls like on Mario Kart like nonstop, and F-Zero too, and I like any ghost house, I'm just like falling off ledges like constantly.
I mean, yeah, luckily I haven't experienced that as badly because like if I ever get close to a turn, I quit accelerating whatsoever and like turn left and then go, which is why I can beat like the 50cc but not the 100. Yeah, because my problem is when I do hit a wall eventually, I get stuck on it. Like,
Yeah, because there's no reverse in this game. I don't think I couldn't find a reverse button to save my life.
no, I just sit there and I press the hop button and like try to turn and go at the same time and eventually get out.
Yeah, yeah, because I was like, because I'm so used to just crashing in a wall Mario Kart, flipping a reverse and, holding the brake
Exactly.
and getting out. Also, probably my thing is that I don't like to ever touch the brake button in any of these games, which is probably my downfall, and that's why I bounce against walls so much. But yeah, I didn't have as much. I didn't play that much Super Mario Kart. I got my Super Nintendo in 90 for Christmas '93, and I rented, like every game under the sun. And I know I rented Super Mario Kart and had a blast with a friend, just doing the battle mode over and over again.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and, and battle mode was fun and different in that way that like I couldn't kill it. We couldn't hit each other unless we were using the red shells. Like the green shells, we might get lucky, but the red shells were like the scariest thing in the world for battle mode
Oh
in Super
yeah,
Mario Kart.
they were like the sought after. Like you were just hoping the random number generator like gave you a red shell.
Right. I mean, like I don't remember being nearly as worried about red shells like in Mario Kart 64 and beyond as I was in Super Mario Kart. But maybe that's
Mhm.
also like my age. Uh, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, I liked bananas because if I got a banana, I could like lay them all out over the map. But
mhm,
other than those two items, I was pretty bad at them. So
yeah. So that concludes our segment about personal memories for Super Mario Kart. Um, what was funny though is because I didn't have that much experience with this. I had a lot more experience with Mario Kart 64. Was surprising to see what was in Super Mario Kart from the beginning. I assumed, like, oh, things get, introduced over time. I mean, this is a 25-year-old series at this point. But, like, the concepts of, like, Mario and his friends, out there racing their carts against each other, the question mark blocks giving items, they're a little different now. They were on the floor and they didn't regenerate. And I think Mario Kart 64 is when it introduced, like, the kind of, like, invisible pattern, or not invisible, but, like, kind of translucent thing that you could, zoom through, and then they would
Mhm.
regenerate. But stuff like the banana peels, or like you falling off a ledge and Lakitu saving you, like that's all there from the beginning. Green shells, red shells, lightning bolt is even there. And then like Monty Mole's jumping out, and then even the thing like ending with a rainbow road, which is every single Mario Kart ends with a rainbow road. Even F-Zero X for 64 has a rainbow road level. And like it's kind of fascinating how much of this was like in there from the beginning. Even like even the rival system, Cody. I don't know if you pick, the rival system, like where whoever second place, will always be first place if you're not first place. I thought it was like purely random just who the series chose, but apparently there's like an algorithm that like if you're Toad, then like one of three characters will always be your rival. It's not just a random of anybody. It's one of three.
Oh no, it's one person.
Oh, is it one person?
Yeah, because I looked into it because I only play as like Koopa Troopa, really. I switched up a little bit towards the end, but I love Koopa Troopa. He's my favorite character in the series. And Luigi, I noticed, was always in second, and Yoshi was always in third. So I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting. Like, it's not even, doesn't even look like there's someone else. And sure enough, yeah, like I looked it up, and it's like, if you're playing as Koopa Troopa, your rival will always be Luigi. And then it like just went down the list, and I was like, that's so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes more sense than putting an RNG in there, Like
yeah, that's true.
When you think about it. I mean, but it's like, but even like, so you're always Koopa Troopa. I'm always Toad. I'm still always Toad. I'm always the tiny characters because they have the lowest top speed, but always the top acceleration and the best handling. So they can like get around turns quickly and then get up to speed. Like Bowser, I know later games he takes too long to get up to speed. So like any level that has like any windy turns, it's like it's pointless to even be him. I learned that. I learned that from Diddy Kong Racing, though. I was always the mouse or the turtle.
Yeah, see, that's why I go for Koopa Troopa too. He's considered a light racer, but he's like just a little heavier than Toad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's crazy. The things that are there already that surprise me are like the advanced techniques. Like my brother learned that power sliding and hopping, which are still in the series to this day, were already there. And like even the rocket start, like when it would like count down, like 1, 2, 3. He loves racing games, and when he realized there were like ways to go faster, he like knew how to pull them off effortlessly. And like I didn't realize those were there until I was replaying it this time because I was more of like a button masher. I would just hold down, accelerate, and then drive all over the place because I was so young. But I'm so surprised that like even back then they had these kind of more like if you're playing against a friend and you're both really good, like almost kind of advanced techniques to eke out a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. It's crazy. And not even like cheat techniques, which I've seen a bunch of. But yeah, like it's really fascinating. And like I think that's what I want to look through this series is like seeing like, oh, this was established like super early on. Like I don't know if you're a Fast and Furious fan, but the concept of like Vin Diesel killing somebody with a wrench. Wrenches show up in every single movie because Vin Diesel's got to think about like, oh, the wrench man. And that's like something, from the beginning. It wasn't like retconned in later. And it's really crazy in video games because like things change, but it's really crazy like what's there. And like I think they still have the flower cup even in Mario Kart 8. Like it's the same named cups over and over.
Yeah, the first 4 or 5 even are all the same throughout the series, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And at least the ones I've played.
Yeah, and then they're always like themed after whatever levels of how kind of happened around that generation. Like my main example is like Mario Kart 64. Like you can drive up to the castle from Super Mario 64 in, which I always thought was really cool. But like it's Bowser's Castle, which looks kind of closer to Super Mario 3 than Mario World. But like ghost houses are there, and what else is there? There's just like all the vanilla.
Yeah, I was going to say the ice levels. Yeah. Is there a desert world in Mario Kart 64?
Yes and no. Chocolate Island's kind of deserty. It's not as deserty as like Super Mario 3's is. But yeah, I mean it's not as established. There's desert levels, but not necessarily a whole desert.
Yeah, because I know later on in the series, like they do, they've kind of exactly like you're saying. Like I want to say Double Dash, because I had a lot of friends who loved Double Dash, that like there was like a desert level that like reminded me of like kind of the Mario 64 desert with the pyramid and everything.
Yeah, but Mario Kart 64 would just go crazy also, and I don't remember ever there being like any trains involved with any Mario games like there were in Mario Kart 64. Or Double Dash had that. What did it have, that lava mountain, which I don't remember ever being in a Mario game.
Yeah, I don't think so. It's kind of funny because throughout this series, they keep bringing back very popular levels, And I didn't look, but I'm so curious if there are like levels that like they just try to pretend like didn't happen. They're like, oh no, yeah, we're never gonna put that in a Mario Kart game again.
I don't think Yoshi Valley from Mario Kart 64 has made a comeback. That's the one that has all the different like paths. Maybe I'm
Oh
wrong. I
yeah,
hated that level just because I was like a dumb 10-year-old and couldn't navigate it. But yeah, and that's also funny is that these levels keep showing up. I know that they put every single level from this game in the Game Boy Advance game, Mario Kart Super Circuit in '01. They had like 16 new tracks and then however many it was there, 20 tracks in this game?
yeah. Because this is the first one that it's like 5 laps and 5 tracks for each cup, and I think they go to like 4 tracks later and only 3 laps almost immediately.
Yeah, the Mario Kart 64, and from there on is 4 tracks, 4 laps, or 4 tracks, 3 laps per cup, and that's what blew my mind. I was like, wait, we're not done here? And I saw like Lakitu, showing up for lap 4. I'm like, come on, really? Although these courses are very short. Like most tracks can be beaten in like 17 to 25 seconds.
Oh yeah, it's insane. Like, I mean, even like I said, the difference between like 50cc and 100cc, like if you're not using I can't even imagine 150cc. I have not unlocked it, and I don't know if I ever will, because like it's just so crazy how like if you just like I was doing pretty good in the very first level, which the name escapes me. I want to say it's not Donut Land. That's the second one. I think it's just like Mario Land or something. I was doing pretty good, but like if I missed a turn, then it was like, nope, I'm overtaken immediately. And I was like, man, you have to be flawless at this game at this point.
And Super Mario Kart doesn't have nearly the bad rubber banding that the series would later get, where and rubber banding is the concept of if you're in first place and you're like having like a super awesome run, then like everybody will catch up to you, regardless if you were like racing like 30 seconds faster than normal. Like everybody would be right there for you. But then similarly, like you can always catch up to the first place person. Like if you're in the back, you're faster than if you're in the front. It's really weird. You also get like better items if you're in the back. And I think it hit its like peak for me with Mario Kart Double Dash, and I know it hit its peak for me because I have a broken controller over it. But man, like it's like all you're getting is like bananas when you're in the front. But yeah, Super Mario Kart's hard to come back from a failure. At least in my experience with this. Although I didn't have much problem with 50cc. I had problems with 100cc, which is pretty par for the course for me in Super Mario Kart, the whole series.
Oh yeah, same here. 50cc, I was like mopping the floor. The 100cc, I was the mop. Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, and then 150cc, never gonna mess with that. But yeah, we just said like what was a little different there. Obviously. The 5-course cups, that was weird to me just because I'm like not used to that structure. Everything was shorter. There's lives in it. If you happen to like not place correctly, then you lose a life. You know, just
if you're not in the top 4, then you lose a life, and you can get like you can lose and get a game over.
It's
not
weird.
Always. Yeah, it's very like an actual Mario game in that sense.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what's weird is, I mean, F-Zero also had lives, but like if you fell off the course, you lost the life. So if you were like perfect for the first like 4 tracks of the cup, and then on the 5th one, like you just couldn't make a jump, like sorry, like it's over. Like, and it's kind of disappointing because you couldn't even like just like get so far ahead of your rivals, like in the beginning to then like tank it in the last track. And still be okay. Like you'd lose lives, you couldn't progress.
That's so crazy to me. I was gonna ask, is this the only game too where every CPU only has their special power item?
What do you mean?
So like if you notice, like you'll never get a Yoshi's egg, but if you're playing against Yoshi, the only item he'll get is an egg, and he'll use it like a banana. Peach and Toad use a poison mushroom, and I kind of looked it up, and sure enough, it's like they will always have their special item. Bowser uses a fireball.
I'm gonna have to bet that was a technological limitation. I don't know the Game Boy Advance game well enough to know what was going on there, but like I remember getting hit by blue shells by anybody in Mario Kart 64.
Yeah,
And
that's what I was thinking. Yeah, it's like at that point, like anyone's gonna hit you with anything, depending on where they are.
but I don't think anybody had a special item that you could play as in in 64. But Double Dash, because like the babies had like the big chomps,
Oh yeah,
and one of the Kongs had like a big banana. I think they could drop on the screen. So I know that they had special items that would end up as part of the random number generator. But I mean, I bet it's a programming thing of like just try to keep track of 7 other racers and each of the random items they have on the Super Nintendo.
yeah, yeah, exactly. It was such an interesting concept to me. I was like, oh, and you're totally right. But in my brain, I was like, oh, this is probably a conscious choice they made of like, ooh, yeah, these people always use this, but that makes a lot more sense.
What else was I seeing here? I don't think the coins came back for like a long time.
That's what I was gonna say because they weren't in 64. Like that was the first thing when I was like grabbing coins. I was like, oh, I remember this
I
because
know
we played it.
I know they're in 8 and I know they're in 7 and they may be in like DS or Wii, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, I want to say they aren't in DS. I owned DS for a while before I traded it in, and I played a lot, but I cannot remember for the life of me right now.
And you know, you're still falling off all the time in Rainbow Road. These courses are less friendly. They're more about daring you to fall off than I think later Mario Kart games were. The Feather is not been in the series for a long time, although it's coming back in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
Yeah.
And battle mode, I think battle mode probably hit its peak with the Super Nintendo game and the Mario Kart 64, but maybe that was just because it was like the first time I ever played like a multiplayer battle mode.
Yeah, I don't remember it because I'll admit I was not the biggest fan of Double Dash, but I had a lot of friends who played it, and I want to say that maybe like, did it not have a battle mode?
It had a battle mode. I remember I worked for a Nintendo site at the time, and I was in college, and so I had like a dorm room, and like we fired it up, and we played every level, and we're like, this is not as good as Mario Kart 64, or at least our memory of it. We're never playing this again. Let's go back to Baby Park. And we never went back to it. It just like I think the courses were like a little more advanced and a little bigger, and you could actually like hunt people down like GoldenEye style in the 64 game. I'm sure it's more like tedious and like frustrating than it is to like a 10-year-old. But
Yeah.
now at least, you know, but at the time, like Mario Kart 64 and Super Mario Kart seemed more novel. In their course design, at least. And I think that Double Dash kind of didn't have a good one, and Mario Kart 8 didn't have one at all. And I didn't play enough.
Well, it had a weird one because it was like you would play battle mode, but you would still be racing.
Yeah.
So
What's the point?
yeah, exactly. You're just racing at that point.
Racing and then like hitting and like actually being able to knock each other off. And then like just like little things that you'll start to notice when you like, there's a lot of cool people on the internet, and I'll have to maybe post some of these on our website, allmyfriendsareright.here.com, is they show comparisons of like what levels looked like, you know, from Super Mario Kart through the whole series. And like, there's obviously just because the power wise, there's no like background art, you know, and Mario Kart 64 ends up having like and later games and the rest of the whole series has a lot of like cool crap just happening in the background. That's really kind of missing from this game.
Yeah, that is very true because I feel like you focus so much more on just yourself as the racer because there's nothing to look at.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, this is kind of a weird one because like I think that Mario Kart 64 and Mario Kart 8 are actually probably way closer to each other than Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 64 are. Like I think there was a big leap in between Super Mario Kart and 64, but. You know.
Oh yeah, moving from like 2D to 3D, just like, I mean, I feel like that naturally was just gonna make it like automatically just jump in like, you know, because it's like what we felt like about 2D and 3D at the time. I remember my mind being blown as a little kid, like, whoa, wait, hold on, I have a whole nother like dimension to move in, and like they even did a good job like just using all of that in 64, even though you can't really go up or down, but still.
Yeah, 64 was definitely the first game I spent all my money on a Nintendo 64 and didn't have any money to buy a game. And so I just rented for like 3 months. And my first game I rented was Mario Kart 64. Not Super Mario 64, not Shadows of the Empire, Mario Kart. And I loved it. But let's close the book on Super Mario Kart unless you have anything else to say. We'll come back for our personal opinions once we talk about Mario Kart 8. But,
yeah, no, I think that's about it for me then.
All right. Then let's talk about what's happened in between 1992 and 2014. So, Super Mario Kart kicked off a mascot racers craze, both in the 3D and 2D space. I played a few of them. I played a few 2D racers. There's like Konami Crazy Racers was a launch game for the Game Boy Advance. Obviously, there are 7 games in between Super Mario Kart and Mario Kart 8. One for every single Nintendo system that was released in between then, except for Game Boy Color and original Game Boy. And then also there were 3 in the arcades, which are all right. I don't know if you played them, Cody.
No, I've never. We didn't have a good arcade growing up, and I haven't really been to one in Chicago yet.
Yeah, Dave and Buster's has a few of them. They're like all right, but they feel more like there's something off about them. Although I don't know why, if Nintendo's hurting for money, they just didn't release like downloadable home versions of 3 Mario Kart games. Get some.
Yeah, that's so true.
But what also there was a ton of, there's like Looney Tunes racers, and there's a couple Crash Bandicoot racers. There's Jack and Daxter's Combat Racing. There's just everything.
Do you remember? Because there was a game that tried to merge like the seriousness of like Gran Turismo and all those with like the battle system. I want to say it was called like Blur, and the whole commercial was like a clearly like it would show like these 3D cutesy like characters racing and like throwing items at each other, and it was very clearly evoking Mario Kart. And then they would like see a realistic looking car get blown up, and they went over to this chain link fence, and I thought, this game looks so dumb, it can't decide what it wants to be.
That's funny. I missed that one. I'll have to check that one out though. There was an Atari racer for the Jaguar, but Atari has like no mascots, so it was like really like digging deep. My favorite one is it was an extra mode on one of the Mortal Kombat games, and it was called Motor Combat, which is hilarious to me. So I find that one funny. There's Nicktoon Racers. Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing was actually pretty good. There were 2 entries for the 360 era. One of them on the Wii U, and I really liked those. I love Diddy Kong Racing. It's one of my favorite racing games of all time. So what I'm saying is that Super Mario Kart created a whole little subgenre of racing games, and then they all disappeared.
Let's not forget the PlayStation 1 exclusive Star Wars. What was it called? Like Battle Pod Racing or something. And it was like demorphed, small body, big head versions.
Super Bombad Racing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a video of that on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/allmyfriendsareRightHere. And I was making a bunch of like Star Wars racing game videos, and my editor, Mitch, he's like, Vince, I feel like that game broke you. Like I refused to, I didn't make another video for like 3 months after. Like it just like ripped all the fun out of like ripping apart like bad licensed games. Yeah. That game is terrible. That game looks like it was made for the PlayStation 1 and then ported to the PS2.
Hastily. Really?
It is.
I thought it was a PlayStation 1 game.
No, it's PS2. It is abominable. And trying to play, there was only 9 tracks, and I was like, this is a ripoff. And trying just to get through all 9 tracks to get like footage was like, it broke me. I hate that game. Let's not talk about.
Oh, sorry. Did you ever play my favorite, because I didn't like Double Dash, but I loved Kirby's Air Ride, and it felt more like a Mario Kart game to me.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Than Double Dash.
Did you ever play Rayman Arena of that same era?
No.
Rayman Arena was like a racing platformer. but it was very much like Mario Kart style where you had like weapons and stuff, but you were running through levels and then like jumping.
Oh, I do remember. I never played it, but I remember because I liked Rayman games a lot. I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
was it fun?
Yeah, well, it was fun at the time, but you know, I was dumb and young, so who knows? Yeah, I was eagerly awaiting like Rayman 3, and then like Rayman Arena showed up, like as I was working for this Nintendo site, and it was just mailed to me, and I'd never heard of it, and I was like, oh, this must be Rayman 3. You know how like Quake 3 Arena had come out? I'm like, this is just what you do when you have third games.
It becomes Arena.
Yeah, right. That's what that word means, 3, right? And it was. Oh my gosh, it was fun enough. I have no idea how it holds up. I was thinking about doing a YouTube video about it, but we'll get there. We may do Rayman for this show one day. Rayman's a long running series.
That'd be a good one.
So I think we've pretty much gone through everything. A lot of things were introduced in the Mario Kart series. The infamous blue shell, which can always find like the first person in the thing. More racers were added. A lot more characters were added. Online play was added with Mario Kart DS, Nintendo's first online game, kinda-ish, if you don't count stuff that happened on the Super Nintendo. But I'm not going to go into that today. But it was, so online had been added. Courses had been widened. Retro tracks were added, starting with the Game Boy Advance games. So every single Mario Kart game from 2001 onward always had like a few classic tracks added to the game, usually in a retro cup. Mario Kart Wii made it so there weren't just 8 people on the track anymore. I don't remember the exact number, but by the time we get to Mario Kart 8, it is 12 racers on the screen. So let's go into the facts about Mario Kart 8. So, Mario Kart 8 was released for the Wii U in 2014. Wii U, Nintendo's most recent system, was kind of a bomb. I'm not going to lie, I'm a big Nintendo fan. It didn't do very successfully. It was released in 2012. The Wii U was. Mario Kart 8 came out about, I guess, a year and a half into the series, into the system's lifespan. It was very popular. It was. I had a lot of friends over. We played it a lot. It did introduce like a lot of new things, such as DLC for the first time to the Mario Kart series. And this was pretty rad, Cody. I don't know if you ever played the DLC courses for Mario Kart 8.
Oh, no, but I've seen them. And, man, I love the idea that they brought in Excite Bike because I love Excite Bike.
They have an Excite Bike course that randomly generates, just like the original Excite Bike did. It's not perfectly random. It more brings into sections and stuff. They brought in Animal Crossing levels and Animal Crossing characters. They brought in Zelda. And so you got Link riding a motorcycle. Oh, yeah, that's right. Motorcycles got added in a Mario Kart Wii in 2008. And then, man, it was just like... And then the best stuff was that they put in 2 F-Zero courses into the thing. And then they, like, used the Mario Kart, like, soundtracks, like, jazzy soundtrack and, like, jazzified the F-Zero soundtrack. And it is amazing. Because I love F-Zero X. F-Zero X and Diddy Kong Racing. Those are my 2, like, top racing games of all time. And so that was just utterly delightful. And then they added in the 200cc cup, Cody. And if you have problems with 100cc, and I do, 200cc is literally the game should not be able to handle it. And like you can just fly off the courses by taking turns too fast because the game's physics engine wasn't designed for it. They just thought like,
oh, really?
They were like, this game's been out a year. Let's just patch in like twice fast than it's supposed to be. And so like the course, it's just like maddening. Like it is like impossible to play, but it is pretty goofy. This game also introduced the Luigi death stare, which was a popular meme a couple years ago. Do you remember that?
I do. Luigi's probably my favorite like character in Super Mario canon and like lore. So when that became huge, I was such a fan because they've just like made him just the weirdest, goofiest thing in the last few years.
Yeah, he's so weird now. He's really he's a weird dude now. This game also followed after Mario Kart 7, so now it has boats, planes, and motorcycles and ATVs in it. They don't really add that much to it, especially the boats and the planes. You can't in Diddy Kong Racing, which came out in '97. You could choose to take any course by either a plane, a boat, or a car, and you can't do that in. And that's the only game I've ever seen where you can just do that. And Mario Kart 60 or Mario Kart 7 for 3DS was like, we've got boats, but only for this small part of this level. And it's like, well, then what's the effing point? So.
I thought when I first saw that, like, I really liked Diddy Kong Racing. My grandma owned it on her N64, and so that's the only time I got to play it.
Oh, that's right. Your grandma had like a whole N64 like collection for you and your cousins.
Oh yeah, which is why I can't stay in Mario Kart 64 because I lost every time. Not in the way of like a fun way, and there was never a time that you could just be like, I'm gonna go play Mario Kart 64 by myself. It just didn't happen. So. Oh, I hate it. But yeah, exactly. My grandma had Diddy Kong Racing, and when I saw Mario Kart 7 be like, hey, or Mario Kart Wii was like, hey, we're bringing back like boats and planes. I was like, oh, it's going to like kind of incorporate because there's not going to be a new Diddy Kong Racing out ever.
Ever.
Like, yeah, I wish. But I was like, oh, it'll incorporate that. And I just remember being really disappointed when I was like, oh, I'm on a boat and it's now a car again.
Yeah, I was listening to something because I don't know if you have a Wii U. I don't know if you have a Wii U handy or if you're planning to buy anything with it now that Switch is coming out in like over a month. But Excite Bots just came out, and apparently, like the rumor is that Excite Bots, which was a Wii game, started off as a pitch for a Diddy Kong Racing sequel, and then it ended up like they're like, this is not a viable franchise, make it something else, and they made it Excite Bots, but it's very similar in the spirit of Diddy Kong Racing. It's like $12 for Wii, if you have one lying around.
I think that my mom owns that for my nieces and nephews now because she's now taken over the grandmother role of owning a bunch of random games and a Wii. But I've never played it because it just didn't look.
It didn't look interesting to me either. But like when you tell me like this was kind of supposed to be Diddy Kong Racing, I'll like instantly pay attention. I'll even play Banjo Pilot, sure, which is garbage, but hot garbage. I like Mario Kart 8. I don't know what to say about it. Like it is a well done racing game. It's got 48 courses, which is the most any Mario Kart's ever had. It's got little car customizations, which I find just slow me down when my 3-year-old's trying to play. He's like, I just want to race. I don't want to have to pick like what my flag is and then like what my tires are. He's like, I want to race. So I'm not a big fan of like the customizations, and it kind of gets away from the concept of just like anybody can pick up and play. Like I think it adds too much thinking to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree because I was trying to decide how I felt about them because I don't care. Like I'm just going to end up being like, one day I'll goof around with it and be like, I think this looks cool, so I'm going to go with this. But like, yeah, I'm not like I'm not going to get on like Mario Kart 8 and be like, I'm out to win every online match. Like I don't care about min-maxing my racer. I just don't. I just want to have fun and like throw red shells at people when I play Mario Kart.
Right. Same here. And I think Mario Kart 8 was probably my favorite Mario Kart of the last since 64 probably, because I did not like Double Dash. Double Dash made me mad because it was.
I hated it. I hate it. It's the only one I hate more than 64.
Yeah, and then I did not like the Wii game, and I know that like technically like DS was like really popular, but I couldn't get into it. I think I was just like being a snob with Diddy Kong Racing and wishing that would come back. But I guess now we're in the personal opinions part of this this branch here.
Sure. Man.
The feeling of driving around on the courses is really good for Mario Kart 8. Like it doesn't feel like I don't feel like I'm like bouncing all over walls. I don't feel like the rubber banding is nearly as bad as it is in like other Mario Kart games. The character roster is fun. The level design is really cool. They started like mixing things up. Like there's that Wario Mountain, which doesn't even have 3 laps. It just has like 3 different like checkpoints. Which
yeah.
Which I'd like to have seen more of. I mean, that reminds me of like SSX racing, so I'm kind of a fan of that concept. And then the DLC courses were like really, really cool. I like
Yeah, like
playing it.
Animal Crossing has seasons
Right.
in it, which is
Mm.
so cool.
And different music for each season, which is bonkers.
well,
Just like,
I'm a big Animal Crossing fan, so I was like, yes, yes, yes.
yeah, I think they made those HD assets thinking they were going to make a Wii U Animal Crossing and then never did. And like, how do we put these somewhere and make money off of them?
Oh man. I think 8 also is like very dynamic with the view. Like when you're turning and stuff and you're actually like going down and like at an angle, this like the background and the screen itself kind of takes a tilt. So it's like you're seeing what like the racers would see instead of just like, oh, okay, well the background's staying the same, but now my racer's like tilted left. It's like a very cinematic experience for a racing game.
Yeah. It's a really good game. I mean they don't make them like they do anymore. Like the Mario Kart was the first one there, and it's the only one left standing after all these other kart racers. It's cinematic. The soundtrack is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Like I can't listen to it in my car because I will literally start crashing into things. But because it like amps you, like it's like I'm gonna hold the gas, I'm gonna just floor the gas and go.
Yeah, it like gets you. It's one of the it gets you excited to race. It's just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna keep going faster and faster because it's fun, frantic, fast-paced music that's cheering me on the whole time.
Yeah, it's a cool game. I like the gravity boosters. I like how they make the retro courses, like they make them more fancy. Like they have courses from Super Mario Kart, and they're not just like flat. They like make them interesting and dynamic. I mean, I think even going back to like, I think Double Dash had one of them. Yeah, Double Dash definitely had one of the rainbow roads, and they like added in like the thwomps, making ripples on the road, and so it just wasn't like flat on Rainbow Road. Like I like that those like little touches, or like Toad's Raceway from Mario 64 suddenly has like speed boosters where there wouldn't have been previously. It's they do it very, very smartly, and I really do enjoy Mario Kart 8. I like Super Mario Kart, but I think Mario Kart 8 gets my edge. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I don't own a Wii, so I've played it with friends, but I think like if I owned a Wii U, one of the very few must-play games would be Mario Kart 8. And I'm looking at getting a Switch sometime, hopefully sooner rather than later. And the revamped Mario Kart, because it also has a revamped battle mode with it.
Yeah, the trailer had 3D courses from Super Mario Kart in it.
Exactly, yeah.
Which I was like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, the Switch is Nintendo's new system launching on March 3rd. It's a tablet with controllers you can sock it into, and then you can dock it, and it'll be instantly on your TV. So it's both a portable and a handheld. New Zelda's on it. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is on it, which comes with Mario Kart 8 and all of its DLC and a new battle mode. I don't know if it's worth $60 to me to get another one because I don't have a lot of friends to play with anymore. But I may get it. I may not. I'm not sure yet.
The Switch is like the first Nintendo system in a long time because I used to be a huge Nintendo fanboy and I still love the games. And I've just gone like more portable. I always get like the newest portable system.
Right.
But the Switch is the first one that's like in a long time that's gotten me excited and makes me want to like go out and get a Nintendo system.
Yeah. Yeah, this is going to be my first Nintendo system I've gotten. I mean, as big of a Nintendo fanboy as I am, I have never gotten a system at launch just because like money has not worked out or like the short stock. And so like I was like, I finally got a Switch reserved, and I'm so flipping excited for it. I'm just gonna camp out on my couch playing the new Zelda game for like days after it comes out. It's gonna be thrilling.
I will say I think my favorite Mario Kart is still Super Mario Kart due to nostalgia, and like now that I'm older, it's a little bit easier for me.
Really?
And it just like, I don't know, like, I mean, I still couldn't take 100cc, but that's going to be on either one. But I mean, I was sitting there playing it and I was like immediately going, oh, I remember this course. Oh yeah, this is great. The items, like everything just flew back in such a fun way that I think because I don't play them very often because I'm not a huge racing fan, this is something I can easily boot up, do a cup because they are very short, and then be like, that was fun. And
yeah, because you'll be done in 10 minutes with a cup.
Exactly. Yeah, I did. The night that I downloaded it, I was like, all right, I'm gonna play like a few laps and then I'm gonna go to bed because it's pretty late. But I beat all 3 cups on 50cc and it did not take me very long. And this is something that is missing in 8, and I'm very frustrated. It's one of my favorite things, and I don't know if they had it in the other ones, but Super Mario Kart, when you get first place or whenever the results are coming out, the little funny animations of like them celebrating and like the cork hitting the cheap if you're certain characters, like that's so fun to me. And now it's just like, oh, you got gold, and it shows like a gold medal, and I'm like,
Yeah. There's so many little things about this series that like I think Mario Kart 64 was my first like game that really showed like personality to me through voice, because every time like somebody got hit with your item, like you'd hear them like spin out, or you'd hear a sound from somebody hitting you, or like like if you got hit by one of Wario's banana pelts, it'd be like, I'm a Wario, I'm gonna win. And like just cracked me up. Oh, Wario definitely was not in Super Mario Kart.
oh yeah,
And it was like Donkey Kong Jr. Like, 'cause I
yeah,
guess Donkey Kong Jr. was like a viable character in '92. So weird.
well, because
Before,
I think you got to think about it. They didn't have really like, because the Donkey Kong games were a 3D Donkey Kong, so like they didn't have a drawing of a Donkey Kong to go off of.
right. And he was huge, yeah, because Donkey Kong hadn't been, well, neither him or Junior hadn't been in a game since Donkey Kong Jr. Math,
Yeah,
since like 85, 86, I think. Yeah, it's just crazy to me. That's but I mean, like, also, like, people are excited because they're adding Dry Bones back to Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Because, like, Mario Kart fans are monsters. And that's what we're excited about. Like, Dry Bones is back. Jeez Louise. I'm excited for it. And people are like, there's too many babies. But you know what? You play with your friend's daughters, and they all want to be baby Rosalina. So,
Well, yeah, you're a parent now, so you get to revisit this through the eyes of like Bruce and everyone, and I imagine that's got to be just like really fun.
He likes Mario Kart. He can't play it very well, but he's into Pokemon now. He can he can win Pokemon fights on his own now. I'm really worried he's going to use my Master Ball, but we'll talk about Pokemon another day, because Pokemon is another long running franchise that could be ripe for first versus last.
Yeah, I would love to. I love the Pokemon game so much.
Yeah, I dipped out from like '03 to 2010, but I've played every game since then. So we can talk about that some other time. But Cody, do you have anything else to say about Mario Kart before we close the book on this?
Oh, geez. I guess if I'm just gonna like toss out like a couple of favorites real quick. Favorite racer, as I said, Koopa Trooper. Favorite, and you're gonna hate this, Ghost Valley stages, just because they're so spooky. I love them.
I never liked the ghost houses. I was terrified of them when I was a kid. Like I would I would do that trick where like I would just like fly over the whole ghost level.
Oh yeah,
with a cape. I hated ghost levels. Never played the one in Mario 64 because that damn piano scared the crap out of me.
Oh yeah, because it attacked you. It ate you. Yeah, I remember.
Never went back in there. Never. It took me like a decade to go back into that world. That terrified me.
Oh wow.
But yeah, spooky houses. Yeah, I think I don't know who my favorite characters are. I do like the babies all the time. I like Wario. I like the Wario Mountain from Mario Kart 8, and I love all the DLC levels. The Zelda level and the music in it is fantastic. It's fun seeing F-Zero X in 3D again, like in HD, and hearing the jazzy music. It's just it's a wonderful game.
Yeah.
So. So Mario Kart 8, get Mario Kart 8 for Wii U, get Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Switch, coming out, I think, like 2 days before my birthday, hint, hint, Kimberly, if you do listen to this show. But I think that's it. Thank you so much for our pilot episode of First versus Last. Our next episode will be, actually with my wife Kimberly, we'll be covering Indiana Jones. So we'll be looking at Raiders of the Lost Ark and Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Both movies are on Hulu and I believe Amazon right now. So check those out. I've never seen the fourth Indiana Jones movie, which is 9 years old now.
You've never seen it?
No, the Nuke the Fridge one with Shia LaBeouf. No, I have not seen that one.
I saw it in theaters. I'm not even like a huge fan. I don't remember why, but I did. I watched it in theater.
It was a big deal when it came out, but I missed it. I heard bad things, so I'm eager to see why they don't make Indiana Jones movies anymore, which is another thing we're going to be looking at in this podcast is why don't they make these anymore? So we'll probably also be looking at Shrek. I think I mentioned Shrek Forever After. They don't make Shrek movies anymore, and why? So until next time, please do like and subscribe to this podcast, First versus Last. Please go and check out our other podcasts. Some of my friends read comics. It's a comic book podcast. You can go to one of our favorite episodes Cody was on, where we looked at Marvel Civil War from last May. That was a fun one. And we also have Saturday Night Love, our weekly Saturday Night Live show. This episode is coming out on a Monday, and last week we did Aziz Ansari with Kia and me. So please do also check that out. YouTube.com/allmyfriendsareright Twitter at We're Right Here, and Facebook at Facebook.com/allmyfriendsareright. I think that's all for my plugs. Cody, you got anything else to plug?
Oh man, if you're a Chicago-based listener, I'm on a house team at IO called Cadaver. Come see our shows. Our shows are listed on the website. Yeah, that's what I'm doing with my life.
Awesome. Improv is just taking away the letter E from improve.
Yep. Improving myself through improv every day.
Awesome. Yes, and no buts about it. Anyways, thank you so much, Cody. I love you so much, and we'll see you again next time.
Thanks for having me. Till next time, love you, bud.